David Smith here with another flipped classroom math video. Today's topic, completing the square. This is a new technique. This is not a factoring technique that we covered in the last unit. This is a completely new way to come up with a solution to a quadratic equation. But let's take a look at this one. X squared plus 4x minus 7 equals 0. Looks like a product sum type, right? Okay, so pause the video and see if you can factor that. Okay, my guess is that you couldn't. There's no two numbers that multiply to negative 7 and add to 4. It's not there. Okay? We can still solve this quadratic equation. We just won't have integers as our answers. Okay? So let's get started. The first thing you have to remember is that all quadratics have this sort of general form where we've got the a in front of the squared, the b in front of the x, and the c is the constant. So a here is 1, b here is 4, and c here is minus 7. So we're going to use that right now. I'm going to go over the step-by-step process and talk about an example as I do that. Step number 1. Move c to other side. Okay? So the c is my 7, so I'm going to add it to both sides. So I'll have x squared plus 4x equals 7. Okay? So that's the first step. The second step is add b over 2 squared to both sides. Okay? So what I'm going to do is first figure out what b over 2 squared is. My b is 4, so that's 4 over 2 squared. 4 over 2 is just 2, squared is 4, so I get 4 for that. I'm going to change pens. This one's kind of dying on us. Let's go to red. Okay, so now I'm going to add b over 2 to both sides, b over 2 squared. So now I have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals, now I add 4 to my 7, and I have 11. Okay? Now, take a look at this expression. We did this certain step for a very special reason. This expression should be ringing a bell for you. Pause the video and think about that. Okay, if you noticed that this side is a perfect square, you were right. Okay, so the third step is factor the perfect square and solve. Okay, so what we're going to do, if you remember your perfect square, this is going to become x plus 2 squared. And now we have equals 11. Okay? So if you need to review how you factor perfect squares, go ahead and take a look at that video or look at your homework because we did do this in an earlier lesson. Remember, this is a perfect square. So that factors down to just x plus 2 squared. Now this problem you've seen before. This was our first problem in this unit or in this lesson. So we take the square root of both sides. This becomes x plus 2 equals root 11. Now what did I leave out? Good. It's plus minus. Very common mistake, and it will cost you a little bit on a problem if you forget that plus minus. Follow me. I'm going to continue the problem over there. X plus 2 plus minus root 11. Let's finish. Subtract 2 from both sides. And we're done. Okay? I call this an ugly answer. It's got 2 terms in it. It's got a plus minus and it's got a root. Okay? Stop there. If you're in my course and you look in the back of the book for the answers, you're going to see they're going to express their answers in this format. Okay? Please do not find out what the square root of 11 is on your calculator and then give me 2 decimal answers. This is actually more mathematically elegant, and you want to leave it there. So remember, in the beginning of this lesson, I talked about this quadratic is solvable. It just doesn't have integer solutions. And yeah, this is not going to be an integer. You could decimalize it, but we'll leave it in root form. Okay, that's a complicated process. My hope is that you can get through this one without help. So go ahead and pause the video. Maybe you took notes on the steps from the last problem. Consult those notes. Or possibly it might be good to go back, watch that video again, get some good notes in your notebook, and then attack this problem. Okay, let's see how you did. First, I'm just going to check. Maybe it's a product sum type. Two numbers multiply to 5 that add to 8. No, can't do that. Never going to get that. So we know this is a perfect, or this is going to be a complete the square type of a problem. So let's move my constant over. X squared plus 8x equals negative 5. Okay, now I need to figure out what my b over 2 squared is. So b over 2 squared equals 8 over 2 squared. Now 8 over 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Okay? So now I'm going to add 16 to both sides. X squared plus 8x plus 16 equals, now I'm going to add 16 to negative 5. Remember that last problem we had 11? We do this time as well. Now, this is a perfect square. It's going to resolve to x plus 4 squared equals 11. Now there's a trick for this. If you remember the pattern of the perfect square, then you're going to be able to get to here. But the trick is that it's always x plus b. Remember we did b over 2 squared? Well, I'm sorry, it's always b over 2. So b over 2 squared gave us our 16 over here. But this is always just b over 2, which, remember, b is our term on our coefficient on the x term. So we just divide 8 by 2, and that's what your result is there. Okay? This is a step that sometimes people struggle with. Okay, so now we just take the square root of each side. X plus 4 equals plus minus root 11. Move the 4 over. X equals minus 4 plus minus root 11. Bam, we're done. Okay, let's do another one. I'm going to give you one to try. X squared minus 6x equals 13. Pause the video. Okay, let's see how you did. Now, this one looks like it's already set up. My constant is over here. But maybe if I move my constant back, I might have a product sum type. So that would make it negative 13 over here. And that would mean I would need two numbers that multiply to negative 13 that add to negative 6. Think about that for a sec. Yeah, there isn't one. 13 is prime, negative 13 is prime. You're not going to be able to multiply to that and get negative 6. So we're on the right path. So now I need to find out what my b over 2 squared is. So that was going to be, let's do this, b over 2 squared. It's going to be minus 6 over 2 squared. Minus 6 divided by 2 is minus 3. Squared is 9. So there's my b over 2 squared. Now I'm going to add it to both sides. X squared minus 6x plus 9 equals, what's 9 and 13? 22. Okay. Now I can factor this side. Remember, that's a perfect square now. X minus 3 squared equals 22. And remember, what goes here, the x minus or the x plus, it's always just b over 2. So b is 6, b over 2 is 3. So minus 6 goes to minus 3. Take the square root of both sides. X minus 3 equals root 22 plus minus. Don't forget, x equals 3 plus minus root 22. Okay, one last one to try for this lesson. X squared plus 2x minus 2 equals 0. Go ahead, pause the video and give it a try. Okay, let's see how you did. First, I'm going to check for product sum. That's easier, so always do that. Two numbers that multiply to minus 2 that add to positive 2. Think about it. Ain't there. course. So let's do this. First step, move constant. Okay. Next step, figure out my b over 2 squared. It's going to be 2 over 2 squared. That's 1. Squared, it's still 1. So our b over 2 squared is just a 1. That makes this super simple. X squared plus 2x plus 1, I'm adding the 1 to both sides, equals 3. 2 and 1 makes the 3. This is a perfect square. It's going to be x plus b over 2. 2 over 2 is 1 squared equals 3. Okay? Take the square root of both sides. X plus 1 equals plus minus root 3. X equals negative 1 plus minus root 3. There you go. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, click the like button down below or subscribe.